One of the things that I typically get to do is when we have these type of ceremonies is always get the opportunity to introduce the keynote speaker. And every single one we have is so rich in tradition, so rich in their resume of public service, and today's no exception. So I want to take this opportunity at this time to introduce our keynote speaker, retired Lieutenant Colonel Max Andrews. I'm gonna read his resume. I typically don't do that, but I want to do that because I don't want anybody to miss any of the things that he's done. It is so impressive, and Max, I was very impressed looking at it. Thank you for your public service that you've given us and serving our country too. A native Georgian, Lieutenant Colonel Andrews began his professional career in education. He later accepted a commission in the Commonwealth of Virginia's Department of Military Affairs, where he achieved the rank of Lieutenant Colonel. In 1985, Chief Justice Warren Burger, who was serving as the chairman of the White House Commission on the Bicentennial of the U.S. Constitution, invited Colonel Andrews to join the commission staff as the Director of Private Sector Programs for the commemoration. During his 6 years with the White House Commission, Colonel Andrews created 2 speaker bureaus, orchestrated 4 national events, wrote 4 presidential proclamations, and oversaw 43 nationwide programs. Beginning in 1991, he began a detail with the Department of Defense working on the World War II Commemorations Committee. In 2001, he returned to Georgia, and following September 11th, he created a group that trains crisis counselors for catastrophic events. In the summer of 2007, Colonel Andrews joined the Department of Homeland Security, where he serves the southeastern United States. He is an active volunteer who, as a member of Hebron Baptist Church in Dequilla, helped organize and develop the Ministry to Military program that serves families of deployed military personnel across the state of Georgia. He holds a black belt in 6 different martial arts. Following his remarks, Colonel Andrews will induct the names of 2 servicemen in the Gwinnett Fallen Heroes Memorial. Please take this time and let's welcome Colonel Andrews.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Connell, it's indeed fitting that Veterans Day comes in the late autumn each year. Of course, as we know, there's the historical precedence for that because of Armistice Day. But in a greater sense, there's a melancholy atmosphere that this time of year promotes and makes it even more meaningful. The days are cool and crisp, and it makes us focus more sharply on the meaning of Veterans Day and what it means to those of us who sit here and enjoy liberty, and those who have put on the uniform and stood on the bulwark of the wall to guard liberty. It's a time of year when the colors are muted. It's a time of year when the days themselves seem to invite us to be contemplative. And that's what we want to be today, contemplative, as we consider the meaning of today. Perhaps you missed it in the rush of election news and coverage in the last few months, but recently in Pakistan, a person put an advertisement in one of the local newspapers in which he promised a reward to anyone who would kill an American. Any American, it didn't matter, a reward would be given. The very next day, a Mr. Peter Ferrara, who was an associate professor of law at George Mason Law School in Virginia, wrote an editorial and had it published in the same newspaper. He wanted the people to know before they started looking for an American just who America is. They wanted them to be able to recognize an American so they would know one when they found one. And here is what Mr. Ferrara wrote. An American is English or French or Italian, Irish, German, Spanish, Polish, Russian, or Greek. An American may also be Canadian, Mexican, African, Indian, Chinese, Japanese, Korean, Australian, Iranian, Asian, Arabian, Pakistani, or Afghan. An American may also be a Comanche, a Cherokee, an Osage, a Blackfoot, a Navajo, an Apache, a Seminole, or one of the many other tribes known as Native Americans. An American is a Christian. Or he could be Jewish, or Buddhist or Muslim. In fact, there are more Muslims in the United States than there are in all of Afghanistan. The only difference is that in America, they are free to worship as each of them chooses. An American is also free to believe in no religion at all. For that, he will answer only to God, not to the government, or to armed thugs claiming to speak for the government or for God. An American lives in the most prosperous land in the history of the world. The root of that prosperity can be found in the Declaration of Independence, which recognizes the God-given right of each person to the pursuit of happiness. An American is generous. Americans have helped out just about every other nation in the world in their time of need, never asking a thing in return. When Afghanistan was overrun by the Soviet Army 20 years ago, it was America that came with arms and supplies to enable the people to win back their country. As of the morning of September 11th, 2001, Americans had given more than any other nation to the poor in Afghanistan. Americans welcome the best of everything, the best products, the best books, the best music, the best food, the best service. But they also welcome the least. The national symbol of America, the Statue of Liberty, welcomes your tired and your poor, the wretched refuse of your teeming shores, the homeless tempest-tossed. These, in fact, are the people who built America. Some of them were working in the Twin Towers the morning of September 11, 2001, earning a better life for themselves and their families. It's been told that the World Trade Center victims were from at least 30 different nations, cultures, and first languages, including those who aided and abetted the terrorists. So you can try to kill an American, if you can. Hitler tried to do so. So did General Tojo, and Stalin, and Mao Zedong, and other bloodthirsty tyrants in the world. But in doing so, you would just be killing yourself, because Americans are not a particular people from a particular place. They are the embodiment of the human spirit of freedom. Everyone who holds to that spirit everywhere is an American. So look around you. You may find more Americans in your land than you thought were there. One day they will rise up and overthrow the old, ignorant, tired tyrants that trouble too many lands. Then those lands too will join the community of free and prosperous nations, and America will welcome them. Alone among the great nations of the world, America defies its identity outside the boundaries of geography and common ethnic ancestry. For there is no fatherland, nor can most of us even trace our ancestors back 5 or 6 generations as so many other nations are able to do. Indeed, we are a people that have come from every corner of the globe. Most of us in the last century, all of us coming in pursuit of a most noble and remarkable vision, that in this land, men and women can live in freedom and liberty with their God-given rights respected. When I received my commission, military commission, the Adjutant General of Virginia wanted to meet me. He wanted to meet all the young officers that were coming under his command. And so I sat in his office in Richmond, and he reviewed my 201 file, as it's called, and looked at my credentials. And he noted that I had majored in history in college, and later I had taught history on the high school and college levels. And for that, he seemed to be duly impressed. In trying to make all the points I could with my new commander, I agreed that history was a very important subject. He then confided in me that he had been a lifelong student of history. And then he confided also that the Virginia National Guard, as part of the 29th Infantry Division, was undergoing a change. It was fast becoming a rapid deployment division, and they were cutting back all of the non-essential slots or personnel, and they were doing away with the office of the historian of the division. The general was very much alarmed about that, and he suggested that in the future he might call on me to serve as the unofficial historian for the division. I gladly told him I would be excited to take that opportunity. He then said, well, why don't you get started then by taking the roster of the unit you're going to be assigned to and study the lineage of the people who are serving with you in your battalion. I took him up on his offer. I never did have the opportunity to serve as historian, but when I moved to Winchester, Virginia, and became part of the battalion that was headquartered there, I got a hold of the roster, and I began studying the names of the men that I would be serving with. Then I went back and I began to do a study, as the general suggested, the lineage. Where did it come from? And I discovered that my battalion was first established in the 1750s. It was part of the 2nd Virginia Regiment. A young colonel from eastern Virginia had come out. He was 21 years of age. he had orders from the governor to form a second regiment and lead that regiment into the wilderness to fight the French and the Indians. His name was George Washington, and he formed the 2nd Virginia Regiment in Winchester, Virginia. And I studied the roster of the men that served with Washington, and I saw their names. They were English, they were German, and they were Irish. And again, looked at my roster, and I found those same family names as generations of Virginians served in that battalion. The next roster I looked at was 20 years later. It was in 1775. Here, a man by the name of Daniel Morgan raised a militia unit, and they were going to answer the call of the Continental Congress to go to Massachusetts and help General Washington and to form the Continental Army. This was the first unit that responded to the call to send reinforcements after the Battle of Bunker Hill. And I looked at the names, and again I found the same family names, but added to them were some French names, and there were even some Polish names and Norwegian names that had somehow gotten into the roster. The next time I checked the list, the roster was the War of 1812. And again, I saw a number of familiar names, but other names had been added from other parts of the world. And then came the Civil War rosters. And of course, the battalion and the regiment that I served with was the backbone of what was known as the Stonewall Brigade. Not bad for a young boy from Georgia getting to eventually command the Stonewall Brigade there, the battalion, the Stonewall Brigade. It was a lot of fun. But I looked at those names and recognized some of them from generations before. Then there was World War I, when the Virginia National Guard became part of the 29th Division, and the list of names now expand throughout Europe, taking in the Italian names and Eastern European names and Russian names. And then World War II, as the names continued, and we picked up a number of Hispanic names, and even some Oriental-sounding names, Asian names. And then I looked at my roster today, and I saw that there were men and women serving whose family names literally spanned the globe. Literally, they were soldiers that had come from around the world. You see, in America, it is a common creed, not a common ancestral root which binds Americans together. That creed is best expressed in the Declaration of Independence, in which we proclaim to the world, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created by they're endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Americans are forever indebted to those who pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honors to give to us ordered liberty. And today we are indeed as grateful to those men and women who pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honors in the preservation of that liberty and freedom that we enjoy. Gratitude, G.K. Chesterton once wrote, is the mother of all virtues. As Americans, we have reason to be filled with gratitude every day of our existence. We have to be filled with gratitude to God for giving us the opportunity to come to this land of liberty and enjoy the great freedoms and privileges that we have. We have an attitude of gratitude for our founding fathers who risked all on the concept that men and women should be free. And today we owe a great debt of gratitude to those men and women who don the uniforms of public service and of military service and stand on our behalf as the guardians of liberty and freedom. This should inspire every American to a sense of greater civic duty and responsibility, far greater than the loyalty that one would have towards state or to a dictator. In the past 230 years, we have shown to all the world what a difference loyalty to principle beliefs can make. Americans have never sought wars of expansion. It has sought to liberate and restore those that it has defeated. It has shared its bounty and its wealth with the poor. It has rescued the suffering. It has done this not because the fatherland has ordered it, but because our devotion to human dignity and human liberty demand it. America is different. It is a vision. It's a noble idea. And for that extraordinary difference, Americans should give thanks to God each day and pledge anew to do our duty out of gratitude to Him and to our founding fathers and for those who put themselves in harm's way to continue the vision of freedom that we enjoy today. This afternoon, we are here to pay our gratitude to those who have answered freedom's call, and in particular, to reverently honor those who have given their full measure. Not everyone in America is joining with us today. There are those who just don't get it. They don't understand that the tree of liberty must be continually watered by the blood of patriots. John Stuart Mill, the leading 19th century American liberal, wrote this: "War is an ugly thing, but not the ugliest of things. The decayed and degraded state of moral and patriotic feeling which thinks that nothing is worth war is much worse. The person who has nothing for which he is willing to fight, nothing which is more important than his own personal safety, is a miserable creature and has no chance of being free unless made and kept so by the exertions of better men than himself." War has a way of uniting men in a common brotherhood, in forming a bond, a covenant relation between one generation of soldiers and another. It is that common denominator that belongs to all those who fight for and defend freedom. William Shakespeare, in his famous play, Henry V, had immortalized that concept of veteran brotherhood. He wrote this in his play: "In peace, nothing so becomes a man as modest stillness and humility. But when the blasts of war in our ears, then imitate the action of the tiger, stiffen the sinews, disguise fair nature with hard forged rage. We few, we happy few, we band of brothers, for he today that sheds his blood with me shall be my brother. Be ne'er so vile, this day shall gentle his condition. And gentlemen in England now abed shall think themselves accursed they were not here, and hold their manhoods cheap whilst any speak that fought with us upon St. Crispin's day. From now until the end of the world, we, and it shall be remembered, we few, we band of brothers, for he who sheds his blood with me shall be my brother." And those of us who put on the uniform can say that to the next generations. He who puts on the uniform and sheds his blood with us is our brother and our comrade. John Quincy Adams was the sixth president of the United States. He had a very profound sense of history. He had lived through so much of our early foundation. In fact, he was the only president not born in the United States. He was actually born in a U.S. embassy in London because his father was the American ambassador before he became the president. John Quincy Adams grew up in the shadow of history, and so he had this great love for it. And writing to future generations, that is to us, he wrote these words: "You will never know how much it has cost my generation to preserve your freedom. I hope you will make good use of it." It is sad but true that many Americans use their freedom not to defend it or promote it, but to criticize those who would defend it. A number of years ago, in fact about 100 years ago, a century ago, President Theodore Roosevelt was invited to write an article for one of the news magazines of the day. He thought about it, and after a while he agreed, but it would be rather short. The article he wrote has been known as "The Man in the Arena." And here's what he wrote: "It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbled or where the doer of deeds could have done better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs and comes short again and again, who knows the great enthusiasms, the great devotions, and spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat." Like it or not, Providence has placed America in the arena. Time and time again, America has been the doer of deeds and has been marred by dust and by sweat and by blood. And in each generation, heroic Americans have taken their place in the arena for freedom, and many have paid the ultimate price for it. But we as a nation have never failed in promoting it. Once again, we find our nation in the arena fighting for freedom. And again, we are called on to endure the contest, to pay the price, and secure the prize that is so precious. And again, as Americans, we find ourselves paying tribute to those who have picked up the challenge and have paid the price. In 1984, on Veterans Day, President Ronald Reagan, speaking to the crowds gathering at Arlington Seminary, made this statement: It is, in a way, an odd thing to honor those who died in defense of our country, in defense of us, in wars far away. The imagination plays a trick. We see these soldiers in our mind as old and wise. We see them as something like the Founding Fathers, grave and gray-haired. But most of them were boys when they died, and they gave up two lives, the life that they were living and the life that they gave up when they died. They gave up their chance to be husbands and fathers and grandfathers. They gave up their chance to be revered old men. They gave up everything for our country, for us, and all that we can do is remember. Some people live an entire lifetime and wonder if they have ever made a difference in this world. But those men and women who are fighting against terrorism don't have that problem. They have made a difference, and they know. This afternoon we remember and honor two young men who made a difference in the world, two men who joined freedom's band of brothers and reminded all the world just who and just what is an American. I am honored this afternoon to present for induction into the Gwinnett Fallen Heroes Memorial Corporal Jonathan Ryan Ayers. Corporal Ayers was born on May 4th, 1984. He died on July 13th, 2008. The location of his death was Gwinnett in Kunar Province in eastern Afghanistan. The branch of this service, Corporal Ayers was the United States Army, and he was a member of the 2nd Platoon, Charlie Company, 2nd Battalion, 503rd Infantry Regiment, that's Airborne, 173rd Airborne Brigade Combat Team, based in Vicenza, Italy. The circumstances surrounding his death. Jonathan, along with 8 other soldiers in his unit, were killed in an intense firefight when an estimated 500 insurgents attempted to overrun the newly built U.S. Army outpost. Jonathan was stationed at the observation post. It has been reported that Jonathan saved many lives of his comrades by his brave and intense action. His theater of operation was Operation Enduring Freedom. Jonathan received the following medals: the Bronze Star, the Purple Heart, the Army Commendation Medal, the National Defense Service Medal, the Army Good Conduct Medal, Afghanistan Campaign Medal with Campaign Star, the Global War on Terrorism Service Medal, the Army Service Ribbon, the Overseas Service Ribbon, the NATO Medal, the Combat Infantryman Badge, and the Parachute Badge. Jonathan was a resident of Snellville, and he attended elementary and middle schools here in Gwinnett County and was a 2002 graduate of Shiloh High School, where he became commander of his junior ROTC unit. In 2002, John earned Georgia's Most Impressive Commander honor, and that same year shepherded his unit to win the state championship in ROTC competition. John also played soccer from the time he was 4 years old and continued through high school. His hobbies included bowling, ice skating, and he loved the Atlanta Thrashers. But pride in his country was paramount with John. Jonathan left college to join the Army in April 2006. He deployed to Afghanistan in May of 2007 and was due to return back home to Georgia in about 3 weeks prior to his death. This was his first tour of duty, and John was posthumously promoted from specialist to corporal. He was 24 at the time of death. Services were held at the Zoran United Methodist Church in Snellville on Sunday, July 20th at 3 p.m. He was interred with full military honors at the Eternal Hills Memorial Gardens in Snellville. Jonathan is survived by his father and mother, Bill and Suzanne Ayers, brother Joshua, and grandmother Patty Weatherly. The name that will appear on the monument behind me will be that of Jonathan Ryan Ayers. And this afternoon, Cryptologist Technician 3rd Class Petty Officer Matthew James O'Brien. Petty Officer O'Brien was born May 10th, 1986, and he died September 20th, 2008. He was killed in Islamabad, Pakistan. He served the United States Navy. He was part of the Naval Information Operations Command at Fort Meade, Maryland. The circumstances around his death are unique. A suicide bomber rammed an explosive-laden vehicle into the upscale Marriott Hotel, killing at least 53 and injuring more than 200. He died in his theater of Operation Enduring Freedom. Petty Officer O'Brien received the Bronze Star, the Purple Heart, the Combat Action Ribbon, the Joint Service Commendation Medal, the Navy Good Conduct Medal, the National Defense Service Medal, the Global War on Terrorism Medal with the Expeditionary Bar, the Global War on Terrorism Medal, and the Navy Sharpshooter Pistol Ribbon. Matthew was born in Mobile County, Alabama, just outside of Mobile. He was a native of Theodore, Alabama, where he graduated from Theodore High School in 2004. Here, Matthew reached the rank of colonel in his junior ROTC unit. Matthew moved to Abbott's Ridge Road here in Gwinnett County in October of 2004 to live with his uncle, Lewis Wilson, while he attended the Art Institute of Atlanta. His high school sweetheart, Bridget, later moved to Duluth, and they were married on July 5, 2005, right here at the Gwinnett Justice Administration Center. After attending the Art Institute of Atlanta from 2004 to 2006, where he was studying to be a movie producer and working for Papa John's Pizza and Home Depot, he joined the United States Navy in March of 2007. Upon completion of boot camp, Matthew received training in Pensacola, Florida, where he graduated at the top of his class. While stationed at Fort Meade, Maryland, Matthew and Bridget attended the Laurel Assembly of God, where they worked with the Children's Church program. Matthew was supporting Operation Enduring Freedom at the time of his death. He had been overseas just less than 30 days. As a cryptologist technician, Matthew would have been involved in the installation, configuration, diagnosis, and repair of state-of-the-art electronic computers and network hardware and software systems. Matthew's older brother Lawrence and two of his cousins also serve in the Navy. Services were held on Monday, September 29th of this year at the Calvary Assembly of God in Mobile, Alabama. He was interned with full military honors at Serenity Memorial Gardens in the Wall of Honor in Theodore, Alabama. Matthew is survived by his wife Bridget Calicut O'Brien of Buckatana, Mississippi, his parents Tommy and Barbara O'Brien of Theodore, Alabama, sisters Janet and Nancy O'Brien of Theodore, brother and sister-in-law Lawrence and Ashley O'Brien of Norfolk, Virginia, grandparents Marvin and Mary Lee O'Brien of Theodore, and Earl and Gloria Wilson of Mobile, Alabama, along with numerous aunts, uncles, cousins, extended family, and friends. The name that will appear on our memorial will read Matthew James O'Brien.